Guys, this is escalating. This is a seismic crisis, but also a volcanic crisis, in my opinion. The streets are empty on the island of Santorini, a volcanic island that's basically a crater. Everyone left, or not everyone, but many people, over 9,000 people were evacuated. People were frightened. People were scared. They wanted to leave. They had problems to leave the island. There weren't enough ferries. There weren't enough planes. But have a look at this, guys. And this is already outdated because the earthquake keeps coming one after the other, one after the other. I will show you a live earthquake list in a minute, but I would like you to look at what the European Mediterranean Seismological Center has released. They have released a chart that basically shows us the earthquake sequence on Santorini Island since January 28th, 2025. And since then, it has this intensified, increased seismic activity, and we already have like more than 900 quakes since then, and magnitudes up to 5.3, just yesterday a 5.3, and the island is basically constantly rattling. And you see this live image of a live camera behind me, and I was checking it for quite a while. I was looking at that camera for a long time to see, is the shaking coming from wind or is this coming from the earthquakes? I can't tell you 100%, guys, but I think it's coming from the earthquakes because it had some quiet phases. Of course, this could be the wind, but usually these webcams, they're installed pretty sturdy. They should be able to deal with the wind better. This was shaking constantly. I don't show it to you too long because you probably will get dizzy. So these earthquakes that we're seeing, they're concentrated basically about 25 kilometers northeast of Santorini and 25 kilometers southwest of Amorgos Islands. And I've said it in my last video, there's a little bit of a controversy because officials and many scientists are saying it's just tectonic, but the earthquakes, they are not on top of really that tectonic segment that they're mentioning. And the segment is not very long, so can such a short fault line segment really trigger such an enormous earthquake swarm? They're closer to the Columbo undersea volcano, guys. And if you are a follower of my channel before this even escalated, who has made 2 videos about Santorini? Guess who was on the pulse? That's me, Silky. So I made 2 videos. I think you should check them out. I have made a playlist especially about the Santorini situation. If you go to the start page of my channel, you'll find it there. I also put some in the end screen. But there was already a higher magnitude earthquake that was concerning for scientists at that time on December, I think early December 1st or something like this. And it was right where Columbo is. So they were worried about Columbo because they found a new magma chamber that they discovered. They didn't know about this. It's shallow depth at Columbo, form of a mushroom, and they found out that it's filling up constantly and that it has filled up with an amount of magma that it had when Columbo last erupted. And Columbo can send tsunamis, can really cause trouble. And it has caused trouble in the past. And now we have this massive earthquake swarm there, and it's just tectonic? I am not so sure because Columbo has also several smaller volcano craters that belong to that Columbo volcanic field. And that's right where all the earthquake epicenters are. So is it both tectonic as triggering this, or the volcano with that land rise that is happening with that magma chamber, is that triggering the fault lines, or both? We don't know, guys. And scientists have varying theories. Officials are saying, well, we have to prepare for catastrophe, but seismic catastrophe. They think that something like it happened in 1956 on Santorini Island, could happen again. A magnitude 7.5 earthquake happened that also caused a tsunami and triggered a small eruption on Santorini. You see it behind me, this lava field here that you see. And there's an old video. This is a small eruption, but it was caused by this earthquake. Because now they're saying, yeah, don't worry, there's not going to be a Santorini eruption. They're talking about a big eruption. Big eruption, the scientists just said yesterday, well, if that happens, it's over and out for all of us. No, that happens roughly every 20,000 years, and it's just 3,600 something years ago that this happened. So they think that doesn't happen, but that doesn't mean that nothing can happen. And again, Columbo. But let's have a look at these earthquake details. You see the clusters, and the bigger the ring, the bigger the earthquakes. And then also, I think this chart even describes it better, where you see it starts in January, and then if you go from blue to yellow, you can't even tell that there's different dots. This is what's always alarming for me. If there's so many earthquakes, such a cluster that you just see a wide area in one color and not the single dots. And if you watched my channel about the Iceland eruptions, this is usually what we saw when there was an eruption imminent. It was going from single dots to a big colored area, and that's what we see here. And also these black blocks here, that is also interesting. That's the magnitude distribution of these earthquakes. And of course we have a lot magnitude 3, a lot magnitude 2, but also many in magnitude 4, and at least 4, maybe even more of magnitude 5. And this is just, this chart is until January 4th. But January 5th in Greece is already escalating in the same way. Bong, 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 bong. One after the other. So each of these bars, each of these charts, you can add even more. It's not stopping. The seismic crisis is escalating. And that's why the scientists and the government has initiated basically a program to get more control or more data to be able to analyze more. What is happening? And there's more, guys. Magma is on the move, in my opinion, and we can basically live watch how it's shifting because the earthquake swarm is shifting a little bit. But first, what are they doing? So an international team of researchers has basically installed 4 portable seismographs underwater that have new technology to monitor, guess what? Not at Santorini, to monitor the undersea volcano Columbo. And why are they doing this, right? If it's just tectonic. I mean, they should do this because they have been concerned about this since last year. Again, I said I have reported about this. So they're placing it around the caldera of Columbo and also along the nearby fault lines. So I think this should help them to see what's happening with the fault line, what's happening with Columbo. There's researchers from Germany that participate in this and also from Greece. These underwater seismographs have specifically good instruments that are able to measure microseismic activity, because that sometimes gets lost. We're just looking at the big ones, but do we know how many thousands maybe of microseismic earthquakes are already happening at the Columbo volcano or in one of these nearby fault lines if it's tectonic? But like I said, such a long swarm, researchers still weren't able to pinpoint one specific earthquake as the main earthquake and then say the others were aftershocks or foreshocks. It's still not determined. So already last December, they have installed 3 underwater seismographs at Columbo and also 5 in the region of Columbo and along the Anidros fault line. So they were probably expecting something. That 5.3 that we've just seen yesterday was at a very shallow depth, only 7 kilometers. That's really shallow. It's not far to the surface. And the cluster of the earthquakes, what we see is they're moving a little bit to another place. And remember, if you watched what happened to Iceland before the eruption, you could basically see there was the magma chamber, there was the eruption site, and we could see the earthquakes along the tunnel that the magma was forming to get to the surface. It's like mining. They need to grind, magma needs to break rock. Miners use explosive. That is causing earthquakes. And you could basically see where the magma is going. Is this the case here? That's why. Do we see a shift in earthquakes in this area because there's magma on the move from the Columbo magma chamber? So it's moving away from the northeastern flank of Columbo to a more northeasterly direction. So basically towards the small island of Anhydros. So that is basically now in the center of this earthquake cluster. And again, I just said it, this shift in activity is usually typical if there is a magma migration or intrusion and it's diagonally rising magma along to a weak zone, to a weaker zone. Magma is always looking for the way of the least resistance. So where is it the easiest? Where are the rocks the most brittle? Where can I go? That's where the magma is going. So if this is the case, is the seismic danger that high? As the Prime Minister just said yesterday, we're preparing for catastrophe. We could see a magnitude 7 again. If this is magma, maybe then not, because usually the really big ones, that's caused by tectonic stuff and not by a volcano. But strangely enough, most of the scientists that give official opinions in Greece right now, they're driving with the tectonic theory. And I've raised the question, is this kind of the same thing that we saw in Campi Flegrei in Italy because they don't want to scare the tourists? Main tourist season is approaching. If there is a volcano that could erupt and send a tsunami, oh, that would not be so good, right? An earthquake, yeah, maybe they're hoping that this stops, right? So they're basically saying, yeah, this could stop, but they're also saying it could last for several weeks or months. But volcano is definitely way more scary, and they were shying away from that in Italy for quite a while for property values and for tourism. And Santorini, biggest tourism hotspot in Greece. 3.5 million people come to this island per year, only 22,000 inhabitants. So if this magma body, or not if, it's sure that this magma body that is forming and that is blowing up and filling up underneath the Columbo volcano, that is causing stress in the surface and great tension in the rocks that surround it that could cause these earthquakes. But of course, that could affect the surrounding fault zones. So they could also give us some earthquakes. And that then could lead to a stronger earthquake again, because if the fault zone starts joining the party, so to speak, this could cause then a stronger earthquake than we would normally get from these magma intrusions that the volcanoes cause, because the fault lines are so close nearby. What I'm wondering is, they already installed seismic stations back last year, but for some reason we don't really hear much. We don't see any charts, how many microseismic earthquakes, what is happening. This is a little bit strange. They have never seen anything like this before in this area, and the officials said this is a strange geological phenomenon, a big one that we're experiencing here. And that's why the experts are so divided about where this earthquake activity is coming from. So all the islands, the Cyclades that are in this area, they remain on high alert after this 5.3 earthquake. And there were other earthquakes in the 5 range. So for example, a professor, he's a Greek professor of the Aristotle University of Thessaloniki, Professor Manolis Skodilis, he says, or he believes, that this current phenomenon is likely a seismic swarm, an extended series of quakes without a single dominant main shock. And he says that while the fault appears to be highly active, it's unlikely that enough energy has accumulated since the 1956 earthquake so that it could trigger another major event, meaning another 7 point something earthquake. But also, however, he acknowledges that a fully conclusive assessment is difficult at this stage. So it's a guessing game. They just don't know. But there's another professor, Professor Konstantinos Tsunolakis. He has raised concerns about a potential volcanic activity because he said that the Santorini volcano, he's focusing that on Santorini, has historically produced small eruptions approximately every 50 years. And we've seen this in 1956. It was small, it wasn't on the main area where all the homes are, but it was there. So he said a massive eruption like that of the Minoan era, which was devastating, is not a realistic scenario right now. But he also said we need to continue to monitor this. Everything's possible. One of the worst case scenarios that the officials at the government briefings discuss right now is the possibility of a tsunami that could result either from a significant undersea earthquake or an undersea volcanic eruption. Or some of these undersea craters or fault lines could collapse, could crack, and cause a tsunami. And that would be equally as bad. Another professor, Akis Tsilentis, he said he's very concerned that the current seismic activity may be a foreshock sequence with the possibility of a stronger earthquake occurring soon. But there's other experts that are more optimistic. They're saying the current pattern is consistent with a seismic swarm rather than a precursor to a large quake. But they do not rule out the possibility that there might be a magnitude 6 earthquake that could also trigger landslides on Santorini or even a tsunami if it occurs near a caldera of Santorini, if something collapses there. Another professor, Efthymios Lekas, he's the head of Greece's Earthquake Planning and Protection Organization. Well, he's only telling us what he hopes for. He hopes that a moderate earthquake between 5 and 5.5 in magnitude could relieve some of the buildup pressure in the fault system without causing major destruction. But we already see these magnitude 5 earthquakes, and the other earthquakes still keep coming. It just doesn't stop. It doesn't change anything so far. But what I never hear, also not in this assessment report, is another theory, Columbo. I don't hear it. Why? I don't understand. So this is the big question mark that I am raising, guys. As always, make up your own mind. Let me know in the comments what you think. If you want to learn more about Columbo, check out my playlist. There's everything you need to know about that really surprise magma chamber that they found. And that was scientifically noted is cause for concern because it has the same fill level that it had when it last erupted. So why are they not officially concerned about this right now? You know me, guys. I'm always giving you a little bit of my theory, or I'm raising these question marks because I have the tendency not to believe what they tell me because I always think, okay, there might be other motives. And I was right in Italy. It was the property values and the tourism industry. And the ones who know me, you guess what I want to say right now. I've been criticizing the Blue Lagoon for the very same thing in Iceland, right? Because it's their big money maker and they always stay open till the last moment, despite the warnings that the eruption is coming, because they need the tourists till the last second, and then tourists have to get out of the water while everything is red and the eruption is going, and then they evacuate them. Whatever. Let's not talk about this here right now, guys. So I hope wherever you are that you are safe. And if you're new here, hey, subscribe. I would like to see you more often on my channel and become a member of this channel if you want to see more behind the scenes stuff, which is sometimes chaotic, I admit, but you know, that's real life. So join me there. The link is in the description of this video. And if you want to support the channel and my animals, my dog's cancer journey and therapy, go to my buymeacoffee.com/silky website. The link is, you see it here. It's also in the description of this video. Register or just click the join button for free. I'm posting stuff there as well. And if you buy me a coffee, I can answer with a video message. I'm a few messages behind, guys. Whoever sent me a coffee, I will answer with a special personal video message to you guys. It's just that these volcanoes keep me busy and other stuff that my members, guys, and I will release another update shortly. So thanks, guys. I see you very, very soon. Check out the end screen. Bye-bye.